Welcome to Earground. My name is Marco, and this is a special edition. So, over the next couple of days, I'll be talking about the EU Film Festival that is happening in Bulawayo as well as in Harare. I'll be giving you more information about this festival, but today I'll be speaking to a very important guest. He's a film director, a multi-talented artist who's originally from Uganda, but he's now based in Belgium. And we're going to discuss with him a bit on his profile, but as well as what he's going to be doing when it comes to the EU Film Festival. He's going to conduct a couple of master classes there. So I opened up with a trailer from the film festival. I think I'm going to replay it for those that didn't get a chance to watch it. So yes, this is the EU Film Festival special edition, and welcome to Earground. Where is our EU? So yeah, just a bit of background information on who AK is. His name is Isaac Simba. He's a multi-talented artist living in Belgium, born and raised in the city of Kampala, that is in Uganda. And his humbleness and willingness to learn resulted into the discovery of a dynamic artist. Having worked with several production houses in the last 12 years, he gathered a lot of experience in various areas of filmmaking, and is now one of the most polished film directors from Africa. And his know-how in the fields of camera as well as art department, these technical skills have led to the realization of different documentaries, such as the Walt Disney's film, Queen of Katwe. I know most of you guys love this film. I loved it too. Sara's Notebook, and Jamaa TV commercials like Nile Special, Vodafone, Lato Milk, reality shows such as The Amazing Race, and MIRA, NAIR Masterclass. Besides the above, he also is a fixer for foreign production companies planning to shoot in Africa. So he has quite an interesting narrative, and I'm going to cross live to AKA Simba and ask him a few questions on what he's up to. So before that, I think I'll just give you a bit of information. So the EU Film Festival is happening from the 15th to the 18th of October, that is in Bulawayo. And then on the 22nd to the 26th of October, it will be happening in Harare, in the capital. And I'll give you just a bit of background or information also on the festival because it's not the first edition. The festival has happened. So during the interviews, I'll just be breaking in a bit of information. And welcome to everybody who's watching, the different film enthusiasts from around Zimbabwe, but also other viewers that love Earground. My name is Marco, and I'll cross over to AKA Simba and speak to him about his craft and his art. the art of filmmaking. So I'll ask him a bit about his brief upbringing, his background, how he started, where he grew up, and then we'll move to the next.
Yes, good morning, Plot. Yeah, it's a pleasure being on your show. AK Simba is a Ugandan, born and raised in Uganda. He's an artist, storyteller, family man, and also a filmmaker. I was born and raised in Uganda, spent a greater time of my life in Africa, and now living between two continents, Belgium and Uganda.
Yeah, they heard it from AK Simba that he grew up, he was born and raised in Uganda, but he spent his time between Europe and Uganda. And, just a bit of a background in the film industry, like what got you into the film industry and how has been the journey, like just a bit on...
Yeah, so my background in film is majorly started off as doing research for companies. So they would send me to different locations before they would go shooting, and then I would just research and make interviews with people, location scouting, a little bit do runners jobs, production assistant here and there. The only department I didn't production assist was catering and costume, but the rest of the departments I did production assistance, and then that gave me a bit more of an idea of what happens on set and what goes on in production. So I can basically say that I started off as an assistant in almost all departments, and that helped me grow and learn patience, perseverance, and also the ability and the anger to learn more and more and get into challenges and do your last job and look at it like it's, your last, and then the next time you do another job and you fine-tune it and becomes a masterpiece. So over time, I just decided, I just kept on growing and growing and growing, and exposed me to so many different people, met different other people as well in the business, people who are knowledgeable, who are educated about it. And there we started sharing of ideas, and it got me to where I am right now.
That's quite interesting. Yeah, I mean, that somebody starts off not formally trained, and just the passion, the drive for film drives them to get into filmmaking. So, like I said, he's going to conduct master classes, and the master classes that he's going to conduct, there is a bit of the information on the master classes that he's going to conduct. So he has a master class in Harare from the 14th to the 18th, as well as in Blawaii from the 21st to the 25th of October. And all you simply need is just to register. Go on the EU Film Festival Facebook page, and you'd find all the information that is there, like the page for updates as well. And so that's a picture of AK there on set, and then I will move to my next question. And we're still talking about film production,
Well, what inspired me into getting into film was stories. We've always had stories, especially African people. We have stories ranging from around the fire stories. We have stories happening everywhere. If you turn around in your village, there's a story. There's a story about a drunkard. There's a story about a hunter. There's a story about a policeman who has an affair with another person. There's a story of a robbery going on. There's a story of a night dancer. There's a story. So for me, basically, all those stories fascinated me, and I always saw them I always visualized them. So when I saw a story of a night dancer, my mind straight away went into that scene. that environment, and I was like, wow, how does it play around? How does it play? Like this guy is dancing, and then you see the fire elements, and then you see the costumes, and then you see the colors, and then you see the whole atmosphere, and all that is basically happening in a frame. So stories inspired me a lot to get into film, just to feel like I could tell my own stories, but I could also share other people's stories. So storytelling was one of the biggest factors that inspired me to get into film.
Oh, quite interesting. He's talking about how the stories that we have in Africa inspired him to get into film. Just these different narratives that we find around, and how they propelled and pushed him to really get into follow his passion and his dream. Just a bit of information on the EU Film Festival. I'm going to give you just the trailer, so that at least for those that are joining us midway the program, so that you understand what we're talking about. Talking about the EU Film Festival that is happening in Harare as well as in Bulawayo. And so the EU Film Festival is happening for the third time. This is actually the third edition of the festival happening in Zimbabwe. And this time around, it brings a very interesting programming, not only just from the European context, but also from the African context. What I find quite interesting this year, it's one program which they're calling the Manyata screenings. Right? These were created by Hawa Usman as well as Phoebe Kirioa. Right? The Manyata screenings are born out of the need to create more space for short films. They are intentionally creating platforms for short films through screenings, retrospectives, as well as conversations, building African cinema ecosystems and building audiences for African cinema with a strong focus on the continent. And during the EU Film Festival 2019, a selection of African short films will be screened in the presence of Phoebe Kirio. So a couple of international guests are actually coming through to Zimbabwe to be part of the film festival. And right now I'm talking to AKA Simba, who's a filmmaker and a film director who's based in Belgium, but is originally from Kampala, Uganda. And just to get a bit of insight in terms of what role does AKA play when it comes to film?
Well, depending on the project, I have different roles. Sometimes the job comes and, it's a camera job and I have to do the job. But if I'm working on film, on a big production, it doesn't necessarily have to be a big production, but if I'm working on any production, my aspirations or my love tends to fall back to art department or to art direction, which a lot of people neglect. Most writers or producers or directors really kind of like to put art department away. More like, we don't need it, it's not such a necessary thing. Any of the runners around can help, set up the scene. But we then forget that, a cameraman, regardless of what sophisticated gear he has nothing to shoot until his frame is filled. So I do feel more inclined to add direction because I feel it is the world that we see that needs to be created. So if you have a beautiful, if you have a frame that does not interpret your story in terms of setting, I think you lose a lot of content in that kind of scenario. So I feel more there's different roles, but a direction is quite one of the strongest points I like to specialize in.
Yeah, that's quite profound there, that no matter how much equipment you have as a filmmaker, what makes a film more interesting is the narrative, is the story. So he says he plays different roles when it comes to filmmaking, but the story, I think, is one of the most fundamental parts of filmmaking. Please drop us your comments, drop us your questions. We are broadcasting live. This is a live broadcasting. So feel free to send in your questions. I'll pass them on to the EU Film Festival team, and we'll be able to also converse with you, and where I can give you some responses from what the filmmaker has said or is saying, I can also be passing on those. And still talking about AKA Simba, I think one of the most epic films to ever come out of from Africa, I would say it was The Queen of Katwe, you know, and he was part of that production. So I've been dying and itching to actually ask him and get a word from him in terms of that production, that film.
Queen of Katwe for me was really a great stepping stone, and also in many ways, because there was a gap between my last job and Queen of Katwe. So that was when I moved to Europe. So I was busy with trying to settle here, trying to settle in Belgium with family and getting my things together. And then from nowhere I got a call. They were looking for somebody who had knowledge, who had worked as a prop master earlier and had knowledge about Uganda. And at that time, there was, of course, other candidates, my colleagues that came in, applied for the job, but they didn't have enough experience on a bigger project. And having worked earlier on numerous projects as a prop master and sometimes as an art director, it was an advantage to me. So coming on Queen of Katwe, meeting all these experienced people with loads and loads of experience, for me was actually great, but it was actually the beginning of my career, because it really pushed me to understand cinema on a much more broader aspect, to understand detail, to understand all the elements, the other little elements about art department in particular, because it was a big crew. And there was I had a lot of responsibility, because I had a lot of people under me or working with me, and the whole setup of how details and atmosphere were incorporated in this film was for me amazing. And for me, overall, I could say Queen of Katwe for me was the breaking, like was an opening for me.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And you're coming to Zimbabwe. What exactly can we be expecting from you? What experiences are you bringing? What is this masterclass all about?
Yes, one of the lessons I would like to share with filmmakers in Africa is we need to tell our stories, yes, but we need to do more research, about our stories. We need to develop these stories so that they can compete with other stories. Because a lot of times, from my experience, is someone comes to you with a script, they haven't thought about it, they possibly just wrote it off head, and they present it to you, and they expect you to do magic. So when you read through the script and you start breaking it down to them and make a budget for them and tell them, hey, listen, I think this is what you could work with. And there's like, oh no, it's too expensive. I cannot shoot it. I cannot do it. And I'm like, listen, before you go into production, do your research, understand your story, understand your strength, look around, look at your surrounding, see how much you can get from your surrounding. That is all production value, you know. Instead of rushing and doing a film that is half-baked and putting it out there and then later regret, I think we are in a better position to tell our stories if we only do more research.
Yeah, it's talking about research there.
Yes, indeed. The African scene is developing. It's growing very fast. It's the future for young filmmakers. It's the future for anything, economics and technology and all sorts of things. But as filmmakers, as we grow as Africans, we should not neglect the importance of research, the importance of storage, the importance of preservation, because a lot of our artifacts are being lost. We destroy more than we preserve. So I find it a pity that it's going to be a challenge for us to tell our indigenous stories in the next 20 years because we will not have anything to refer to, because we've destroyed virtually everything that looks old and embraced the Chinese, the Western, items, and yet a lot of these things we've destroyed are very crucial to our storytelling. So I would say we should do a lot of research, but we should also preserve a lot of our own things because we will need them much as we're growing fast.
Yeah, definitely there we need a lot of the narratives and a lot of the information from our heritage for us to preserve our stories,
Yes, fellow filmmakers in Harare and Bulawayo, I'm coming down to Zimbabwe in October to share with you my experience in film as an art director, and especially in art department. Please come, let's learn from each other, let's share notes, let's improve the film industry, let's build each other, let's make film fun, but let's make film also a business, because there's a lot of potential, but we need to tell half the other story that has never been told. Please come, let's share the moment. I love you all.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to learn from, a lot of, skills, experiences, knowledge, network that I think you can all benefit if you to take part in this masterclass. So, like I said, the masterclasses are running in Harare as well as in Bulawayo. So the festival is running for a week, not a week, it's running from the 15th to the 19th of October, that is in Bulawayo. And then it moves to Harare from the 22nd to the 26th of October at Gallery Delta. So it's going to be a treat for anyone who is within the region. So if you're in Kwekwe, in Kadoma, in Gweru, you're in Nkezi, in Victoria Falls, make a date, be there, register, just go on the EU Film Festival Facebook page and you'll be able to register, or just write an email to Roberta at endhouseproductions.com. And you can also host, like an input session. So these are for filmmakers, film students, professionals, and those that are just interested in general public in around Bulawayo, respectively. It's a panel discussion format. So they are looking for two key presenters for each session with 15-minute input with the following, will be followed by an open discussion with the audience, with feedback, comments, as well as more interaction. So,
Queen of Katwe for me was Yes, indeed. I'm coming to Zimbabwe this October for the European Film Festival. I'm going to facilitate a masterclass in art department. And what I'm doing is I'm helping young filmmakers understand the importance of understand their frame better, in terms of setting, in terms of propping, in terms of color and mood and all that. So this is all happening in form of a workshop that will happen. That will be a week's workshop in both Bulawayo and Harare. And please come. It's a learning experience. It's never too late to learn, and it's a great experience. Please. So it will be nice. It will be an honor to be in Zimbabwe. I love this country, and I'm coming down. So let's meet and have fun.
Awesome. So much love for Zimbabwe there. And for those that want to take part in the master classes that are happening from the 14th to the 18th of October, that is in Bulawayo, and then from the 21st to the 25th of October, that is in Harare. You can simply send in your CV and a motivation letter to explain where you want to enroll for the master class, and then that's done. Just drop an email to aksimba@tadoba.pictures. So the deadline is the 26th, that is tomorrow. By end of the day, the submissions will close. And for those that want to take part in the input sessions, roberta@endhouseproductions.com. This is where you send in the information. And don't miss out the festival. I think for those that missed out on the information, here's the information on the festival. So those are our dates there, and those are our partners there. And yeah, so thank you so much for joining. Drop your questions. I will be telling you about more of the guests that we'll be having on the program as we're doing this series talking about the EU Film Festival that is happening in Harare from the 15th to the 19th of October in Harare, in Bulawayo. My apologies on the mix-up on the dates there. And then from the 22nd to the 26th, that is in Harare. So it's going to be a period of festivities. And thank you so much for joining in. I see Roberta Wagner, I see you watching there. Bimbayi Zimuto, I see you also watching. I was talking earlier on to Isaac Simba, aka a filmmaker, film director from Kampala, Uganda, but who's now based in Belgium, who's coming to Zimbabwe for the EU Film Festival. He's going to be conducting a master class that is going to run in Bulawayo as well as in Harare. So make sure you get to be part of that master class. So for those that need information on the master class, there is the information on the screen there. You can register. The master class is still open for both Harare and Bulawayo, but they're limited places. So make sure that you don't miss this great opportunity. For those that are into filmmaking, into video production, into corporate visual production, or anything that requires visuals. I think this is an opportunity for you. Don't miss out. Don't say that we didn't tell you. And Doro, thank you so much for joining. And just the last word that we got from AKA about him and the next masterclass that is going to be hosting in Harare for those that missed out.
Yes, indeed, I'm coming to Zimbabwe this October for the European Film Festival. I'm going to facilitate a masterclass in art department. And what I'm doing is I'm helping young filmmakers understand the importance of understand their frame better, you know, in terms of setting, in terms of propping, in terms of color and mood and all that. So this is all happening in form of a workshop that will happen. That will be a week's workshop in both Bulawayo and Harare. And please come. It's a learning experience. It's never too late to learn, and it's a great experience. Please. So it will be nice. It will be an honor to be in Zimbabwe. I love this country, and I'm coming down. So let's meet and have fun.
There you have it. Thank you so much to the EU delegation to Zimbabwe for the appreciation. Earground, New Voices Amplified. We're going to continue this series and speak to more guests. I will be giving you the program. Just keep watching on the Facebook page, Earground, for more information, or go to the EU Film Festival page for more information. So I'm out. Thank you so much. Hey.